Hi, Nigel Saunders here. Today we've got another difficult task ahead of us. We've got a Juniper Bonsai, and this tree is one of my youngest trees. It was purchased at last fall for a juniper workshop with the Kitchener-Waterloo Bonsai Society. Our challenge was to go out, purchase a juniper tree, and turn it into a bonsai tree. So I picked this tree because, well, first of all, I didn't have much of a choice in trees. It was kind of late in the year, and the nurseries kind of had all their trees put away for the year, and most of them were sold, so I had a choice of about 3 trees, which isn't much. The reason I picked this tree is it had a multi-trunk at the top. So the main trunk was quite tall, and I'll show you a photo of the tree as I purchased it. And it had another little trunk, which is here, that was also growing vertically right beside it. So I thought, well, I can cut that thicker trunk off and then use this trunk, this smaller one, as the main leader. And that way we get some taper in the tree, and it brings it down to a nice size without having a awkward transition to the top of the tree. So that was the reason I picked this tree. So the first thing I did with this tree was I cut off any really large branches. There were some that were really thick up here. I cut off some of the lower branches just because we didn't need the lower branches. And so now it's time to pick a style for this tree and plan its future development. So the style I'm going to pick for this tree is the giant California redwoods, the largest living organisms in the world. So the first thing we're going to do, at the end of this video, it's still not going to look like a redwood. We're just going to take steps towards getting to our ultimate goal of having that giant redwood look. So the first thing we're going to do, again, is we're going to study the proportions of a redwood tree and find out what makes it look like a giant old tree. The reason I picked a juniper to simulate the style of a redwood is that they have some similar characteristics. If we want to create a giant miniature tree, we need nice, fine, tight foliage, and the juniper has that. It's got really good foliage for, you know, making a small tree look like a giant tree because it's so fine and just nice. The bark on the juniper does have a nice reddish color that the redwoods have also, so that's another plus. One of the things the juniper doesn't have that the redwoods have is it doesn't have that ridged bark on it. So the old redwoods, they get a bark that's almost like a willow tree bark. It's got these big, thick plates that go down, ridges. So I don't think we'll ever get that type of bark on a juniper. However, I think we'll come pretty close to getting that look. Junipers do have bark. If you flake it off, it becomes quite smooth, but we'll leave it rough, and I think as the tree grows, it'll look pretty close. So let's go look at some photos of redwood trees and study the proportions, and then we'll come back out here and start styling this tree. So again, if we start with the diameter or thickness of the trunk as 1, we look at the height of the trunk to the first branch, and it's 6 times the thickness of the trunk. And the height from the first branch, or the lowest branch, to the top of the canopy or crown of the tree is 8 times the thickness of the trunk, making the total height of the tree 14 times the thickness of the trunk. If we go up top and we look at the width of the canopy, it's 5 times the thickness of the trunk. So this is the proportions of General Sherman, a famous redwood tree, and I really like the style of it and the shape of it. So this is the style that we're after.
So we're going to go and have a look at the details of the tree so you can see what state it's at now. We'll start by showing you this trunk chop. So you can see here is where the original giant-sized trunk was, and this tree was very tall. You can see from the photograph of it. So here's the branch that I've chosen as the new leader, and it's got a nice line with the trunk. It's very vertical, and I can see maybe carving this away a bit to get a cleaner transition, but we'll see. Maybe we want a rough transition and just hollow that out or something. So the first thing I did with this tree is last fall I repotted it. I took all the old soil off it, which was standard nursery soil, which was basically sand. And I replaced it with a freer draining bonsai soil. And I did some light root pruning. And when I say light, I didn't just trim the tips off, some of the growing tips off the roots. I removed some of the major roots that were growing straight down. So, you know, our goal is to get this flat radial root base. So I took some steps to getting to that. You can see I do have some fairly large roots on this side that were kind of high compared to the other roots which are down below, which you can't really see but are in the pot there. So these roots, I thought, well, your number one goal of bonsai is not to kill the tree, so I didn't remove these roots at this point in time. And I may not remove them. Even though they're high compared to the rest of the roots, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to try a technique where I'm going to dig out the trunk below the root and then bend the root down. So the root, instead of coming out horizontal here, it'll go down into the pot more vertically. So eventually it'll blend in with the rest of the trunk and you won't see it as a high root. And we'll try and get some more roots to spread out down below the soil line. So I'll show you that when we go to repot it, which will be late spring. The best time to repot junipers, there's a lot of different opinions on it, but generally, from what I can see, the best time is when you get new growth just starting to come on the tips in spring. So it's usually late spring. They don't come out really early. So that's when we're going to repot it, and we'll show you what we're going to do with those roots at that time. You can see some of these branches here. I've cut them off rather severely. And what I was waiting for is I cleaned up a lot of the structure, all the dead growth that was blocking out light from the trunk, and the tree started back budding. So on these branches, I reduced all the branches to the first set of green foliage, or first bit of green foliage. So they've been chopped pretty severely, and it's an effort to get the tree more compact. I mean, these branches were, you know, way out to here. They're really long. So that's what we've done. We've tried to prune off all the long growth and prune it back as far as we can. So when you get back budding in a tree, there's no point getting back budding if you're not going to reduce the branch, if that's your goal. So that's what we've done. We've taken it back. So this year, I haven't done much styling to it, and basically the reason is I'm just letting the tree regain its strength, because we did take a lot of foliage off it. And when a juniper is stressed or has some major work done to it, you get what's called juvenile foliage or scale foliage. And I was getting that all over. And I'm still getting that. If you see, the growth is spiky, whereas the older growth is more like it's a finer foliage, and it's more like a cedar. It doesn't have those sharp spiky tips on it. So a lot of this foliage is starting to grow really well. I measured my trunk diameter. It's 1.5 inches, and I'm using that because I don't have a metric tape measure. So if we take our trunk diameter as 1.5 inches, our lowest branch should be 9 inches from the base of the soil line. So we're going to measure up. We are going to measure up from the base of the soil line 9 inches, which is right here, which is quite high in the tree. So the first thing we're going to do is get rid of all those lower branches. So here's our trunk line now. There's quite a few branches growing in that area at that size, so we'll just start with these lower branches. And we're going to try and get as flush a cut as we can. There we go. Oh, it smells good. There's another one going. Take that little bit of growth off. Normally I'd love to have growth like that up top, but we're just not going to use it down below. And this one's got to go. Whoa, that was a big branch. All that foliage. Okay, so that's gone. Let's check our 9-inch line again. Alright, so we still got, it's right here, so we still have some branches to go. I'm going to prune off this one. And I think I've got to get rid of this one too. Let me just double check that. Yeah, that one's got to go. And these ones are pretty close to the 9-inch mark, so I'm going to leave them for now until well, we've got 1, 2, 3 branches growing from basically the same area of the trunk, and we don't want that. We're going to get a swelling in the trunk if we leave that like the way it is. So I think what we're going to do at this point, I think we've got to pick a front for the tree, which I haven't done yet. And there's going to be several factors that make me choose the front of the tree. This trunk isn't perfectly straight. If you see it, it comes up and it has a bit of a change of direction here. So we're after the front of the tree, we want the trunk to look straight and vertical. And that'll add to that mature look for the tree. So there's only 2 possible fronts if we do that. One is this side,
and the opposite side. And that makes that curve disappear on the trunk. If we pick this side, our leader blends in well, and that big scar is hidden behind, which is good. And there's no branches that are poking straight out at you, which is also good. If we pick the opposite side, we've got a branch that comes straight at you. Actually, quite a few. So, based on that, I'm going to pick the front of the tree from, and I have a stick here. So purely based on that, we've got a straight trunk and we got branches approximately where we want them. So I'm just picking the exact front, and I think it's going to be probably here. So we're going to mark that. So there's the front of our tree. So I point that towards the camera. And the reason I chose it is there's no branches poking out at you, and even these ones which aren't coming straight at you, you can still kind of see the trunk line through them. So now that we've got the front of our tree, we've got this problem with the 3 branches again coming from the one spot. So if we look at the front, we've got this branch which is nice, and this one which is nice, and the one back here is, it's kind of, no, I'm thinking here. Okay, I think what we're going to do is remove both of those. I've been covering them up. We do have a little sprout here, which is nice. We'll keep that. If we remove both of them, we've got this branch, another branch, there's one at the back. It's a little more structured if we get rid of both of them. So I think we'll do that. And we're going to keep that little sprout here. That one's gone. Go back to the front of our tree, and we're going to get rid of this one too. There we go. Okay, so back to the front here now. Yeah, that looks pretty clean. Okay, so now it's time to check our other proportions. So our overall height was 21 inches. So let's check our overall height of the tree. 21 inches is to here. So we're pretty good on the height of the tree. So I'm just going to prune that off so I know where the top is. So there's the top of our tree right here. That's our 21-inch mark. And our foliage, we should have about 12 inches of foliage at the top. And we're right about on that. That's really good. So there we have our basic proportions in place now. The next thing we want to do is check the width of our canopy. So if we check the proportions again, we should be at 7.5 inches wide for the canopy, which isn't a lot. That's right here. So we're getting outside that. So we're hoping for more back budding, and we're gonna have to shorten up a lot of this new growth.
So the last thing we want to do with this tree is we want to equalize this vigor. If we let these vigorous tips grow, they'll just get more vigorous and all our weaker stuff will start dying off. So we just want to equalize the balance in the tree. So I'm just going to scissor prune some of this stronger growth back. Like so. You just cut in between the needles. Definitely this has to be cut back. And you can do directional pruning also. I'm not sure of the actual style we want in this canopy yet, so I'm just kind of shortening it. And we'll leave our final styling for a later date. Not our final styling, but we'll leave our styling for a later date. So again, I'm just shortening these vigorous tips. That'll push energy back into the rest of the tree structure. We're almost there. I'll leave that. A little bit more here. That looks, you know, fairly balanced now. I'm just going to also remove some of this growth that's coming inwards here. Yeah, so your goal in a juniper, you want to kind of achieve a balanced foliage. So just like with the pines, you know, if you prune back to your weakest significant branch and balance the foliage to that, the tree will be in good shape. I think that's about it. So here's the canopy now, which isn't much of a crown. It's pretty sparse, but you know, this tree is only been in training for, oh, I just saw another tip there. This tree's only been in training for a little less than a year. So, you know, there. Okay, yeah, so this is, you know, it's very young as a bonsai tree. I've added a new section to the channel called Tree Documentaries, and some of them are really, really good. If you get a chance, if you're a ficus fan, check out The Queen of Africa. It's a documentary on the sycamore ficus in Africa, and I don't know, I just thought it was really cool. I mean, it's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. So, yeah, there's our ficus over there. That's the Queen of Canada. Yeah, so yeah, check out that on the playlists, tree documentaries. There's also a playlist for bonsai humor, and then there's playlists for the progression of some of the trees. So as this tree, as General Sherman progresses, we'll keep updating its progress. And yeah, if any of you guys come across great tree documentaries, or, you know, bonsai humor or anything, you can put it in the comments and I'll add it to our playlists. And there's Dandelion over there. He's come to help me with my bonsai. Hi, Dandelion. Let's go take a visit with Dandelion here. Hi, hello. Hi, Dandelion. How are you? You gonna come see me? He's a good guy. Whoa, I'm missing him here. Hold on. Hey, fella. Yeah. He's a good guy. He's coming to visit me. Where is he now? He likes to play every day. I can't film him. I'm trying to film him. Hey, Dandelion, where are you? Where are you? There he is. Yeah, Dandelion still comes to play every day with me, right? You're a good guy. And he likes to be petted. He gets in sucky moods where he just lies down and I give him a back massage. And but most of the time he's pretty playful. He likes to run around on me like I'm a tree and chase my hand. There he goes. And he's really good. He's a really good guy. He just play bites a little bit sometimes, but he's never hurt me or anything. And he's the only squirrel we've ever had, hi, that comes back and visits you, right? You're the only guy that comes back, and he's a good guy. So there they are. We've kind of balanced the foliage, we've pruned the structure, and we've got General Sherman underway. The majestic redwood, the largest tree in the world. So Nigel Saunders, we'll see you next time.